Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, indeed, that's the man who will join us next. Professor Olashonya Akintabelu is an economist. He's also going to give his perspective on this matter. Morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, here we are again, faced with this challenge. We were talking about the reason why this is. The president says we're broke. But let's get your perspective on this first and foremost. What's your understanding of when the president says we're broke, to the extent that we can't pay ministers, because many have different interpretations of that?
Well, if the president says we're broke, he must have data in the control of the information available to him. A good president is trying to become will more or less look at the prospects of our continuing paying this costs. Now, you have to match the costs with your revenues. And a good budget management requirement is that there must be fiscal discipline. All right? You make sure that your expenditure tallies with your revenue, and you don't continue to borrow money that you cannot service. I mean, the debt service that you cannot properly service. So if the president says we are broke, it doesn't mean that we don't have money. It means that there are certain priorities that will take precedence over certain items of expenditure. And of course, if the president feels that paying ministers is a discretionary expenditure, right, it's within his power to put it aside. He wants to concentrate on non-discretionary expenditure, like moving the economy forward, like making sure that the government collects all its revenues in, as they're trying to do in the treasury single account, which will be very efficient for the country, and also so that it can have enough money to prosecute its programs. There are so many programs that are very expensive. I heard you saying that why can't we have 36 ministers? Yes, why can't we have 36 ministers? Yes, there are quite a lot of jobs for them to do, but do we have the money to pay them? Particularly the cost of running around and implementing some of these programs. I would just say that the president should be very focused, and the first principle for a successful government is not to try to do so many things. And I think it's better. Successful governments try to do few things, and unsuccessful government tries to do a lot of things, and they do them badly. So I think the president should just focus on few things, look at his pocket, and see what his pocket can accommodate. So it's better for us to cut our clothes according to the size of our cloth. So being broke does not mean you don't have money. I mean, there are different definitions of being broke. But it doesn't mean that we can't have, we don't have money to undertake other expenditure items. But the president feels that paying ministers is an unproductive expenditure item. Although there are so many functions that you can ask them to do. If you ask me, it's just my own idea. We have 6 geopolitical zones. You can even ask each minister, some of the ministers that are not without portfolio, to actually follow some of the things that are going on there, so that they can report from time to time to the president on the state of development. You need that without violating the constitution. The ministers in each geopolitical zone can liaise with the governors in those zones. There are 5 states in each geopolitical zone, 5 or 6. Some have 7. There is a need for them to monitor, for the president to monitor what is going on. Because as we know, the people in each zone are Nigerians, and they need to be catered for. Their welfare need to be looked after, and it is for the president to make sure that all the programs that he would like done, without interfering with the state government's political programs or whatever it is, where there are different political parties in power, are implemented. It is very important. So there are quite a lot of jobs to do.
Yeah, but you have many who will say that seems to be the inevitable thing that we may have to do eventually. ensuring that those states, in fact, many outrightly will say, why don't we just go back to that? Do something about that. Let the states develop at their own pace, because that's where the people reside, not at the federal level. Policies are executed in the states, people live there, the roads, the houses, all of those things are felt in the states. Shouldn't we, they argue, isn't it about time that we revisit this federal system?
Well, that is a big question, and it will require, a fundamental restructuring of the constitution, because the constitution has decreed that we have to have 6 states. So, and they have to be until there's a sort of a general agreement that the state has to be restructured, or that the powers and the functions in terms of the, if you look at the constitution, you have the functions that are exclusive to the federal government, and you have functions that are concurrent with, that can be performed by both the federal and the state government. So the most important thing is for us to agree whether the states, for example, my argument is that, for example, what is the government doing with agriculture, federal government, except to concentrate on research and move the agricultural sector forward? Since, as you said, it is the state that they have the lands and what have you. Now, it's the same thing with education. We have federal colleges of education, secondary schools and what have you, in each state. Are we not duplicating resources? If the federal government feels strongly about education, it can now say to the state, look, this is the level of education we want, the quality we want, this is the standard we want, this is the standard everybody should follow. And of course, already we have a grant system through UBEC or whatever it is. If a state does not comply with what the federal government wants in terms of educational activities, they can reduce the grant, they can take the grant away. And I think it's high time we use a very viable grant system rather than having a system whereby we create another pockets of expenditure, ministries or department. Ecology Fund is an example. We have a very big department, and it has been bedeviled by a lot of arguments and corruption and what have you. So there are a lot of restructuring that this government can do, but it cannot do it within its lifetime. It has a lot of programs to do. So it has to do it, he has to sort of prioritize some of these issues as he likes, and then he then takes them forward. This is not, it didn't go to the electorate to say, look, I'm going to take over all the state's functions. We cannot ask him to start doing that now. If that was his manifesto, it's part of his manifesto that he contested the election on the basis that he was going to scrap some functions of federal government and is going to define the concurrent and exclusive functions between the federal. It's a totally different thing. So we cannot ask him to start doing that now. Why don't we allow him to concentrate on his programs and then say, this is the program we want to do, and this is how far I can. Of course, the federal government can lead the state in the sense that the federal government can tell the states, these are the policies and programs that we feel, and that if you are prepared to follow these policies and programs, we will be able to do this for you. We can give you grants and what have you. It's another way of achieving the same result.